Welcome to the new week, everyone. I think this week's focus is a critical technique that we need to use on a daily basis. I call it erase, educate, and motivate. And what I mean by that is every single day we should start off with a clear mind and some new knowledge. And the way that we do that is, again, we erase, educate, and motivate. And what I mean by those three terms is we have this whiteboard of life. And so if you picture a whiteboard and we write all the things in our life on it, the bills, the mortgage payment, what balancing our checkbook and the car and putting gas in the car, putting oil changes and new tires and repairs, and some of us have kids, and then we have kids activities to go to and soccer practice and conferences at school and violin things, and so we get all of this stuff written on the whiteboard of life, and then we try to fit in all the other things that are really important but we don't have to focus on very often. And it's not that soccer practice isn't important, it's not that getting tires isn't important, but they're not intentional and they're not prioritized and usually in the correct manner. And so what I really like to do is I like to start every day just understanding what are the critical things that need to happen today, and make those the first thing that you put on the whiteboard. And picking up the dry cleaning and going to Starbucks and going grocery shopping are prioritized below these things that we choose to put on the whiteboard first. And so I'm going to share with you some techniques that I use, and I would tell you they're great techniques. They've worked for hundreds of people that have gone through my program, that I've worked with over the years. You're certainly welcome to substitute a different technique as long as the result is the same, as long as you're still accomplishing what we want to accomplish on erasing, educating, and motivating, right? Because what motivates me might be different than what motivates you. So I'm going to share a little bit of a morning routine with you. And I would challenge you that it's probably going to take maybe a half hour, maybe a little bit longer. But each of us always has the opportunity to wake up a half hour earlier. And so, you've come into the program with an idea that you wanted to be better, with an idea that you wanted different results than what you've had in the past, or you wouldn't go through all the trouble of getting in the program, listening to morning videos, and jumping on this website once a week, and printing out worksheets, and checking off boxes, right? So all of those are things that you've committed to in order to achieve a different result. What we have to keep in mind, though, is that we have to be prepared to do things differently, because the same actions are going to produce the same results. And one of the most difficult challenges that people have is they say, I'm not a morning person, or I'm just so busy. And I'm sure you are. We're all busy. But if you're committed to change, if you're committed to different results, then I challenge you, you have to commit to an extra half hour a day. It's a half hour. It's less than 1% of the hours that you have in a week. Find a half hour. If you don't want to get up earlier, just make sure it's the first half hour of your day. But for me, I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. And honestly, I have almost all of my work done by 10 in the morning, because I'm so much more productive in what I do. Now there's interaction I need and phone calls I need to make after 10. And sometimes, I do those throughout the day, but sometimes I get them done by 10 o'clock. But starting early is a huge common trait in most billionaires. So let's establish that we're going to get up a half hour earlier. Let's establish that we're going to start our day every day the same way. This 365 days a year, because it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't require you to leave the house. It's all stuff you can do in about a half hour. I do it from bed, to be honest with you. I wake up in the morning, and I'm usually awake by about 5 without an alarm, because I've been doing it a long time. I kind of just wake up and I enjoy the morning for a minute. My blinds are always a little bit open, so I can see the sun sort of getting brighter as the morning progresses. So I might lay there for a few minutes. The first thing I do in order to erase that whiteboard of life is I just do gratitudes. I just lay in bed and I think about everything in my life that I have to be thankful for. And in my own head, I have some categories, and I just systematically go through each category, understanding what I have to be thankful for in each of those categories, what I have to be grateful for, okay? Because what we do when we do gratitudes and what we do when we take a few moments just to be thankful for what we currently have is we understand how blessed, how fortunate we are to be in the position that we're in, to be in the country that we're in, to be in the economy that we're in. There's a lot of good things happening right now that we don't even have to mess with, okay? And so, you know, there's a lot of times in our life where the wind is at our back and we're just riding it, and that's okay. But if we optimize that, we can go even faster. We can go even farther. We can reach places we didn't think we could reach. But we have to start out with a clean whiteboard, and I do that by gratitudes. And again, I'm giving you my techniques. I think they work. I would encourage you to try them for a little bit. But certainly if you have another technique that you use, then use that. Just make sure that you're intentionally erasing that whiteboard of life. Because later on, when we get into some other techniques, we're going to want to prioritize, and we're going to want to build that whiteboard in an organized, prioritized manner. We want to be in control of every minute of our day, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So the next thing I do is I educate myself, and that just means I read for a short time. 15 minutes is plenty. I always have multiple books that I'm reading at once. Again, I'm not telling you that's the way to do it. I'm not telling you that's the way to educate. You may have a magazine that you want to keep by your bed. You may have articles that you've saved. You can Google information. You know, you can wake up and Google what's the latest trend in my industry and just see what's going on. You know, what are interest rates doing? What are home prices doing? What are insurance rates doing? What's credit information doing? But you can always Google something about your industry and just spend some time reading and learning. You know, I prefer books myself, and that's cool. The point is, I'm doing something every single morning for a short time to just make myself better, to learn something new, to be of more value to my clients. Because every single day, I want to be more value than I was yesterday. And I will tell you, I'm 100% believer in there is no neutral. We're either getting better or we're falling behind. And some people say, you know what? You know, I'm keeping up. If you're keeping up, you're falling behind because somebody else is progressing. If you're not learning, somebody else is. If you're not sharpening your skills, somebody else is. If you're not trying to get better every single day, one of your competition is. So why not be one of the people that gets better every single day, that learns something new every single day, and leaves their competition in the back? So principle 2 is to educate yourself every single day. So we're going to wake up, we're going to erase that whiteboard, and then we're going to learn something so that we can be better. We can be better at our job. We can be a better person for that matter. You could be reading a self-help book, a self-development book. You could be watching podcasts. As long as you're educating yourself, whatever that means to you, whatever technique you're most comfortable with, whatever media you're most comfortable with, go ahead and go with that. It doesn't matter. What really matters is that you're just getting better at doing something every single day. We also know as we progress through this, right, that there's a day of the week that I ask you to be an expert. Well, if you're not learning something every single day, how can you be an expert, right? If your value is just that you happen to have a license, and you can happen to transact, you're lumping yourself in with tens of thousands of other people. And that doesn't make you different, and that doesn't make you better. And what it makes you is have to work really, really hard for the business that you are getting. And the whole goal of what we're trying to do is be attractive so we don't have to chase that business. So that we can be the ones that people are coming to because we're an expert, because we're trusted. Because people know us, they like us, and they trust us, right? Oldest sales principle we all know. People do business with who they know, like, and trust. Okay? Part of that likability, part of that trust has to do with the fact that you're an expert, that they trust you know more, that you're going to do a better job. But if you're not doing anything to get better, how are you going to do a better job? Okay? So every single day, spend at least 15 minutes learning and getting better at your job. At your field. And the third principle is just motivate. Sales is about influence. It's about influencing behavior. Okay, and this doesn't just apply to sales. There are times we have to influence behavior when we're buying things. There's times we have to influence behavior when we're negotiating something, having a disagreement with a spouse or a loved one. Certainly children require influence, right? Getting them to clean their room, getting them to do their homework, eat healthy, all these things. We have to influence that behavior. And the largest portion of influencing behavior is being inspirational, okay? The more you inspire, the more you influence. But if we're not in the right space mentally, if we're not prepared to go out with a positive attitude and inspire, we're limiting ourselves on the amount of influence we can assert. And so it's very important that after we erase this whiteboard of life and we've filled our head with some new knowledge, right? So we're of more value now. We're an expert. After we do all that, we have to get in the right headspace. We have to motivate ourselves so that we're inspirational. Because again, this is about attracting. So if we're Debbie Downer and we're whining, somebody says, hey, how's your day today? And we go, it's okay. It's not inspirational. People aren't drawn to that. We're trying to attract people, trying to draw people in. And if we're not inspirational, that's not going to happen. So the next thing I do is I just do declarations. Some I am statements. It's an old technique and it is very effective. And you know, a lot of people don't think it works. And a lot of people will argue with you that it's silly or it's uncomfortable. And I will tell you that the biggest difference between those who are very successful and those who are not is not what they know. It's not how hard they work. Those are byproducts. The biggest difference is how they think. Very successful people think differently. They think positively. They're focused on growth. They're focused on opportunity. They're focused on positivity. When you do that, you will find that the results increase because you're inspirational. You inspire people to make a decision. You inspire them and their behavior is influenced by that. So don't underestimate how important it is to get your head in the right space. And I think declarations are a huge part of that. You know, if you're uncomfortable doing it out loud, it doesn't matter. Just silently sit there in your head for a moment and just say, I am an expert. I'm amazing. I'm great at what I do. I'm wealthy. I'm successful. I'm intelligent. I change people's lives. I help people achieve their dreams. I change generations. Right? I change the outcome for generations. And just go through all of these things in your head. Whether you want to admit it or not, it is scientifically proven that doing these kinds of affirmations, doing these kinds of declarations, changes the way that your brain is wired. And what you have to understand about the brain is that whatever you believe, your brain will create a reality for. And what I mean by that is, for instance, if I say that I am unattractive, my brain is going to go out into the world and it's going to find evidence. It's going to pull evidence to reinforce that belief that I'm not attractive, therefore making me feel unattractive and verifying that. But the opposite's true. If I believe that I'm attractive and I say I am attractive, then what happens is my brain goes out into the world and it searches for evidence that I'm attractive. And it reinforces that. And that cycle continues. Because I feel attractive, I believe I'm attractive. Because I believe I'm attractive, my brain looks for evidence, gives me evidence that I'm attractive. It works with every principle, every thought, every belief in your life. So it's critical that we fill our head with the right beliefs. And so I just want you to know that I'm sorry if you don't believe in that stuff, but it's scientifically proven. And I would challenge you that if it's uncomfortable, do it anyway. You didn't join a program like this to be comfortable. You joined a program like this to make changes. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of examples of people who have changed their belief patterns, done nothing but worked on what they believed, which is reinforced by these affirmations, and their results have dramatically changed. So let's go ahead and let's do these affirmations every day. If you want to add, and your worksheet will show you, there's two things. If you want to add something else motivational, do it, but don't skip out on the declarations. Maybe that's exercise. Maybe that's walking your dog. Maybe that's listening to hyped up music. I'm not here to tell you what motivates you. I'm here to tell you, though, that you have to start your day with that sort of segment, right? We have to erase that whiteboard. We have to fill up our mind with some education, and we have to feel good about being us. We have to feel good about who we are, and we do that with declarations, and then we add something to it, whether it's a podcast, motivational podcast, whether it's music that hypes us up. Some people love to run. Whatever that is to you, just make sure you work that in there. So now we've erased that whiteboard and we've put what we wanted on there, okay? We should have a plan for the day, and that plan should be prioritized. We have to pick up the kids. Of course we have to pick up the kids from school. But what are the critical tasks I need to accomplish? What do I really need to focus on, right? Because the kids get out of school at 3:30 every day. We don't have to focus on that. What do I focus on? Is it making cold calls? Is it reaching out to referral partners? Is it attending an event where I might meet the right people? Those are our critical things we should be focusing on, because the dry cleaning will get picked up either way. And then the next thing I really want you to do, after you do all this, after you erase, after you educate, after you motivate, after you've built this critical task list for the day, just close your eyes and visualize yourself being successful in each of those areas, right? So if you have to take the kids to school, great. Visualize going to school and there's no traffic, and the drop-off line is short. And your kids are actually happy and they give you a big kiss and tell you that they love you. It's a great drop-off. Visualize that. If you're going to make cold calls, if you're going to be working the phones, visualize people answering. Visualize them saying, yes, I'd love to set an appointment. Yes, I'd love to get a quote on insurance. Yes, I'd love to do business with you. Whatever those calls entail, visualize the success of that. It's very, very important. So that should be the structure of our day for the first 30 minutes, right? That's all we're asking is 30 minutes to retrain our brain, 30 minutes to put ourselves in the best position to succeed. Why not have the wind at your back? Why fight the wind? Why start the day with a crappy attitude? We can control that. So we wake up, we erase the whiteboard of life, we learn something new so we can be an expert, we'll motivate ourselves so that we're inspirational. Inspiration is going to create influence. We understand what our critical tasks are, the ones we have to focus on. So we don't have to focus on going to Starbucks. We don't have to focus on picking the kids up. We don't have to focus on stopping for milk. That stuff's going to happen, I promise you. We have to focus on the hard things. We have to focus on the things that are going to grow our business. Then we just take a few moments and we visualize. We see success throughout the day. Again, it's scientifically proven that when you visualize, it creates experiences in your brain. Your brain doesn't have a distinction between actually being successful and visualizing being successful. So what you're doing is you're creating these experiences of success in your brain, which reinforces the belief that you're successful. Your brain finds evidence of that in the world. You feel more successful and you produce more because you're now attractive, right? You're now inspiring. Because you're inspiring, you're able to influence. So you guys have an amazing week. As always, you can reach out to me if you have any questions, if you just want to chat. Please, 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 right after this video, print out your worksheet and start checking boxes, right? I give you a freebie box every day just by watching the 2-minute videos. So just get the sheet out right now. Commit to this week being your best week of worksheet. Get that worksheet out, start checking boxes. Give yourself a goal every day of how many boxes you want to check. Next week, you raise the bar a little bit. But for today, print it out, get those boxes checked. You are amazing. Make sure you declare how amazing you are, declare why you're amazing, and have an amazing week.